Okay, Keith here again. Wanted to continue our series with our basic guitar lessons. Let me back up a little bit here. Um, and we were concentrating just to get some basic theory down so that you can kind of facilitate teaching yourself is really the goal. So I thought I'd go in and expand upon what we talked about. Actually, it was yesterday. Remember, we were talking about half steps and whole steps, and a half step is 1 fret, and a whole step is 2 frets. A minor second up from F. In other words, if you call something a minor second, you have to name it by the next note in the musical alphabet. So if you're on F and you go up 1 fret or a half step, and somebody says, "Well, that's name that as a minor second," you would call that G flat. Went over some basic things like that. But basically, to understand the concept of a major second and a minor second, a minor second or a half step is 1 fret. It's the smallest division in music. And a major second is 2 frets, up 2 frets. So if I go up a major second or a whole step up from F, it's G. If I go a major second up from G, it's A. If I go a minor second up from A, it's B flat. Okay. So half steps and whole steps. Well, what can you do with this? Well, you can do a lot, but fundamentally, the first thing you want to do is you can figure out scales based on half steps and whole steps. So you can pick any note. Let's start with let's start with the open string E here. So a major scale, and you've all heard them. Let me just play one for you. You know, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Pretty much everybody's heard that. And all you hear musicians practicing those things all the time. So it's probably one of the first things to learn as you develop other things. But what most people don't know is they'll just memorize a pattern. Somebody will write out a pattern for a major scale, and they'll say, "Go ahead and keep practicing that." And that's good. It develops muscle memory, but it's also good to know how it's constructed and what's at its core. You know, how do you transpose that to different scales? In other words, well, C, if I learn this pattern for C, okay, well, I can move the same pattern up, but what is that at its core? What are the intervallic relationships in that major scale that makes it uniquely sound like that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do? Well, it's simple. Since you've learned half steps and whole steps, it's a combination of half steps and whole steps. So let's start with the open string E. Remember, we learned that the first string open is E. Okay, I want you to remember this. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step, with a whole step in between. Okay, so if I'm on E and I go up a whole step, 2 frets, 1, 2, I get here. If I go up another whole step, I go here. So this is E, now this is F sharp. I have to name it by the next note. So if you start on E in a scale, and what's the next note? Well, it's F sharp, some type of F. What's the next note? Some type of G. Well, a whole step up from F sharp is G sharp. Now we need a half step. A half step up from G sharp is A. Now there's a whole step in between. So we go A to B. Okay. Now we go another whole step, which is C sharp. Okay. Now we go another whole step. And now we go a half step. So I made that same relationship that I played in C, only I played it starting on E. So now you figured out what notes are in an E major scale by using the relationship of one note to the other note in the scale. Between the first and the second, there's a whole step. Between the second and third note of the scale, there's another whole step. Between the third and the fourth note of a scale, of a major scale, there's a half step. Between the fourth note and the fifth note, there's a whole step. Between the fifth note and the sixth note, there's a whole step. Between the sixth note and the seventh note, there's a whole step. And between the seventh note and the eighth note, there's a half step. That relationship is always the same. So now you can figure out any major scale. Just assigning that relationship to any note you start on and go whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, and you will hear the sound of a major scale. So if we start on B, open string, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, whoop, half step, I'm sorry. No, wait, I goofed it up. Whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step in between, okay? Whole step, half step, okay? So now you can do it starting on G. Just the same relationship, okay? Again, if we start on D, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step. And it's good to learn to play scales on the open string. So in A, whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Start on E, same as the first. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step. So any notes you pick, you can figure out the notes in a major scale. Now, let's say, for instance, you don't want to play them all, all on the same string. But it is good to learn the major scales. If you watch a lot of guys play, a lot of great players, they play horizontally on the neck, not vertically. Okay, a lot of times, and we always learn to play guitar vertically. And you should learn horizontally too, just as much, if not more. But if you watch great players, they always play horizontally to get in different positions. That doesn't mean there's no value in playing vertically. Of course there is, but you want to learn them horizontally also. So, but let's take, for instance, this C major scale. So if we look at it, here's C, and that's a whole step, then a whole step. So C would be D to E. Okay, so you play the E here. Now half step, whole step, another whole step would be A, but if you want to stay in position, you get the A here. Okay, then another whole step, and here's a B, that was a whole step up from A, and now a half step. Now, if you want to change positions, you could do the same thing. Whole step, half step, okay? Whole step, half step. Whole step, either here or here if you change. Whole step. So you can figure out any major scale, what notes. Okay, you can figure out any major scale by just knowing the relationship from the first note to the second note to third note to first note. And it's always the same thing. It's either a whole step or half step. And also, too, if someone says, well, how many sharps are there if I start on, I'll just kind of bring you into some of this other thinking. If I start on C, what you'll notice is all the names of the notes are just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, same on piano. It's all white keys. Okay. So you said there's no sharps and no flats in the key of C. But if, let's say, for instance, I start on G, well, we'll do it open string since that's easiest to see. So G, whole step, half step. Okay, so G, A, B, same. No sharps, no flats so far. D, E, now here's the only sharp. F sharp, G. So if somebody says, how many sharps are there in the key of G? It's just an easy way to figure out what notes are in a major scale. And, it'll also get you started on signatures. So the key of G has one sharp. It's F sharp. Okay. Okay. Let's go to the key of D. D, E, whole step. So that's F sharp, half step, whole step, half step. So the key of D has two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. Okay. Right there. Okay. So if you're in the key of D, you got to remember there's an F sharp, and there's a C sharp. And there's a lot with key signatures. Check it out. They'll always go in a specific order. Like in key signatures, you'll always have every sharp that came before it. So notice when we were in G, it was the key had one sharp, which was F. Well, now if we have a key signature that has two sharps, it has the F as in the key of G, but it also added one more. Okay. Now, if we go, let's say, to the key of A, we'll have an F sharp and also a C sharp. Okay. And they'll add a G sharp in the key of A. So A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp. So every sharp up to that point was in those key signatures. But check out the theory lesson with key signatures and how to do that. But I'll talk more about that, and kind of do this kind of color commentary on some of this stuff because I think it's valuable and it makes it really clear. So what you want to do is just go through here, just pick a note and put the pattern. And no matter what note you maybe one B, whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Any place you put that pattern, you're going to get a major scale. I think I made a couple of mistakes there on the one, but I apologize. That's why we do these things live. You're under the gun. The also too is you can start like a good way to practice them on the. Say, for instance, you play the G. Okay. You can also play two lines at the same time and harmonize. Like here we're going to start this on G and this on B. Now we're going to play everything in the G scale. So you can do things like that, which is good practice. Okay. So you'll see that a lot when guitar players move that stuff around. Just move the scales. Okay, play two notes of the scale at the same time. Just stay in the same key. So that should give you an insight into how to make major scales again, and then you can move them over vertically and learn them horizontally also. So. Any questions, let me know. I think that's clear. We'll add to this as we go along. And, I hope that gave you a little bit of an insight into major scales. Of course, you could do the same thing with minor scales, modes, and all those. You can figure them out with whole steps and half steps. And we'll go into a little bit of that. It's not the most efficient way, but when you're starting out, it's the easiest way to get your head around how major scales are built. So anyway, I hope you like that. And, we'll talk to you again soon. See you soon and Merry Christmas, huh? Hey, don't forget, hit like and subscribe, will you? Thank you.